Welcome to another episode of The Other 99 Times. Count Your Blessings. I'm Liz Faublas. My next guest is the personification of the strength of the human spirit. When Julia Bruzzese was diagnosed with a rare, debilitating illness, her life and the life of her family changed forever. For years, through countless doctor's appointments, amid a heavy financial burden, Julia, her family, friends, and even perfect strangers have galvanized to give her hope and worked tirelessly to find a cure. Julia is here with her father, Enrico. Thank you so much for joining me. I've really been looking forward to this because we met a couple of years ago, when the Holy Father was here in the United States, and you have been a source of inspiration for me from that moment on. So it's a pleasure for me to talk to you. Dad, thank you for being here as well. Julia, tell me, when did you begin feeling something just wasn't right?
I think I started to realize that something was off when, I was always an active girl. I was a dancer, I was honor student, I played sports. I started to realize something was wrong when, I would get home from school and the first thing I wanted to do was go to sleep. When I would get sick very often with fevers and flu-like symptoms, or when I was in class and I realized I was the only one yawning every 5 seconds. I started to realize, when I would go to dance, I went from being, front and center to in the back. Same thing with sports. I realized that I went from, being like first to bat up to being on the bench.
So Dad, when did you decide, you know what, I think it's time to go see someone because this is not typical of my baby girl?
Well, we were visiting Julia's pediatrician often. We were there 2-3 times a month. Julia had a bullseye rash from an insect tick. We didn't know anything about Lyme at the time. And the pediatrician didn't know either. And she was attributing all these symptoms to growing pains, viral, vitamin deficiency. Julia was having vision difficulties. We were bringing her to get prescription glasses and they weren't lasting. We kept having to go back and get her a new prescription. She was getting, sick 2-3 times a month.
Yeah.
And this went on for 2 years.
2 years before they finally said that it is Lyme disease?
Well, it actually really started very suddenly. It started with a stomach ache, and just like a normal stomach ache. I told my parents, we went to the pediatrician. She said it was like a stomach virus, so she sent me home. The next day it got worse. It got to the point where I couldn't take the pain, so we went to the hospital. They told me, I had an appendicitis, so prepare for an appendectomy. But they did a CAT scan, and there was no appendicitis. So
How old are you while this is going on?
I was in the 6th grade. I was 11.
But she first got sick at 9.
Yeah, at first, this was when the onset of symptoms started happening when I was 9.
She got really sick.
Yeah, but 11 was when it got really bad. So we went to the hospital, but they sent us home because they didn't see anything. So they sent me home with Zantac. That whole entire week I was off from school. So the next week I went back, and the stomach ache went away kind of, but I still had it if I moved.
Uneasy feeling.
That week I remember I won vice president of my school. Yeah, so I had a lot going for me. I had a lot to look forward to. That Thursday, after that week of, the stomach pain, I was sitting at my desk, doing work, and all of a sudden my legs go numb. So, I push it off and I say, I tell myself I'm going to wait till the end of the period because I don't want to make such a big deal out of it. And that's when I realized, my handwriting is starting to become scribble. My face, starts drooping, and I have no control over it. My vision starts getting blurry.
Who catches this?
Well, my friend next to me, she's like, Julia, are you okay? And I couldn't talk. And that's when my teacher was walking down the aisle, she happened to be next to my desk. And she came over to me, and the minute I saw her, I started hysterically crying because, I had no control over my body, and this never happened to me before.
You feel like your body is betraying you at this point. Let's talk a little bit just about how your lives have changed. You go from being this active, dynamic girl to now facing the challenge of being in the chair and just not being as self-sufficient as you used to be. What is that like for you on a day-to-day basis?
It's a little heartbreaking. You know, growing up, I always had, goals and aspirations. I always was an independent person. I was always, I always had like a lot of talents and things I wanted to do in my life, things I looked forward to. Going to school and like staying till late because I had so many clubs that I was a part of, to, being homeschooled and swallowing pills every 5 minutes, getting infused. It definitely, changed my life tragically. It changed my family's life.
Dad, how did it change your life, your wife?
It threw us for a loop. We were basically thrown to the gutter by our medical society, because of this controversy surrounding Lyme disease. And, we always worked hard for our family to provide for them health insurance. I never thought I'd have to leave my livelihood to care for my daughter. It was...
And let's be clear, this has created a significant financial burden.
Absolutely. We're without salary. Medications aren't covered. It's really hard. We don't have any support, medical support. When Julia suffers crisis, we can't run to a hospital. We can't go to an emergency room because we're criminalized.
And you count on the generosity of friends,
so many
people,
so
GoFundMe.
Yeah.
You and I spoke, Enrico, ahead of this about children in general, and I don't know how much you realize, and maybe you do, when you can't help your child, it's the most helpless feeling in the world. So on top of knowing that you have to do more to help subsist, you look at this beautiful child who, by the way, will no longer speak in the past tense about what you used to be, because you are. What do you think just about yourself and your future?
Our perspectives have changed drastically. I spend a lot of time answering calls and emails of people who are suffering and are without any guidance or help. This is what our goal has become.
You've become an advocate.
Definitely,
We've become an advocate of Lyme.
Yeah, and like I said in the beginning, for me it was, it was tragic. I don't want to go outside. I don't want anybody to see me in a wheelchair. I don't want anybody to remember me like that. But then I started, to realize, like especially after getting blessed by the Pope, that I wasn't alone. Another thing that changed when I fell ill was, my faith.
Okay, I'm sorry. You just can't toss that out there and not discuss what that was like. I remember sitting on set and seeing him come to you, and we wept. We just let all type of journalistic ethics go to the wayside. What was that like for you to meet Pope Francis at the airport?
Before getting blessed, like I said, me and my family were living a nightmare. I had to watch my dad every day fall apart. I had to watch him, fight on the phone with medical professionals, insurance companies. We were in a financial disaster. We had come to the point where, if I had to get better, we had to sell our home because, that's how much we were struggling. School was starting, and I had to, watch all my friends go to school, do the things that I was supposed to be doing. And at that point, I'd kind of like gotten mad, instead of praying to God, I asked God, I was like, why me? Why are you doing this to me? I used to get mad at him, like not understanding why this was happening. We felt alone, we felt scared, I felt lost, I didn't know what to do. And then, one day we got a call that we're going to see the Pope suddenly. And I was pretty sick too. I had gotten better, but on treatment that we had started, but we needed further, you know, more intensive treatment that we couldn't afford. So, you know, that
We
day,
got a call from
yeah,
Julia's principal at the
yeah,
school, Sister
yeah.
Joan.
So here you are on the tarmac, and he's
yeah.
coming towards you.
Yeah, so he gets off the plane, and immediately I start crying, and I didn't know what to expect that day, but you know, I had like a feeling that something, you know, was going to change. I just like had a feeling that, you know, this was going to be life-changing. You know, I went there that day, and I believed that he was going to do something. I believed that he was going to change. I believed that he was going to give me a miracle even. So, you know, the second he got out of the plane, I started crying hysterically. Like, so I felt like something, you know, just came over me, that I got very like emotional and starstruck, and
He is kind of a rock star in our faith. Yeah.
you know, he's walking towards us, and they told us, the people that were, you know, were in charge that day, they said that he's probably not going to come over to you because he's running late for mass, and so don't expect him to come over to you. So, you know, I was like praying that he was going to come over to me, even just to touch him would have been amazing. So he's coming down, and, you know, I kind of felt like he was like heading for us.
He
And
kept
now,
like looking our way.
yeah, and now we're like all screaming for him to come, and I'm crying, and, you know, he comes over to me, and he just stands there, and, you know, he places his hand on my face and on my head, and, you know, in that moment, like, I knew, like, I felt, you know, I felt God, you know, all those worries and all of like the worries that, you know, my life was going to end at this point were gone. You know, I felt like this was going to happen. This was happening for a reason.
That was an epic moment.
Yeah, it was life-changing.
I remember it. We're going to leave it there. We're going to take a breath, and we're going to take a break. I want to come back and just talk about your relationship with your family, and your hopes for what's next. When we come back on the other 99 times, Julia continues with her amazing journey. So please, we're going to pay some bills. You come back and be ready to be inspired. Welcome back to the other 99 times Count Your Blessings. I am speaking with the lovely Julia Bruzzese and her father, Enrico. And I follow you on Facebook. I'm kind of a stalker. And I love the fact that every time I see you, you're smiling. I know you've even been cast in a movie, Nashville. You've been doing really great things despite this challenge. I know it's hard, but what inspires you? What brings this face out, this smile? Where does that come from?
A lot inspires me. I would say my family is like my biggest inspiration. There's a lot of times where, you know, I feel like I want to give up. There's a lot of times where I wake up in the morning and I feel like maybe all this pain and all this suffering maybe isn't worth it. But, you know, when I'm on the brink of giving up, you know, I just look at my dad and I look at my siblings and my mother, and I say, like, if they can do it, then I can. You know, if they're there and they're pushing forward and, you know, they're keeping positive, then I can do it. I had to become strong for this. I wasn't prepared. It definitely, you know, was in a time of my life where, you know, a lot of things were going to change and a lot of things were happening for me, and then it all suddenly was like a bomb going off. If I didn't have my family, then I don't even know where I would be.
Do you ever stop, though, and I said, because I don't want you to talk in past tense about what you were, how it was, and it's easy for me to say, obviously, because I'm not experiencing what you are, but you ever just stop and think that it's just a different journey? You're not going to be a cheerleader, but you're going to advocate for young women. You're not going to be a dancer, but you're going to inspire a dad, you know, to be strong.
Yeah. I always had this, you know, perfect image in my head of what I wanted to do with my life. And then, you know, this happened to me, and I saw another part of the world that I'd never seen before. You know, it had a lot of, you know, downsides, but it also opened my eyes. And when I look back, I can't believe how sheltered I was. It definitely made me more passionate. It made those dreams and those goals and aspirations I had in the past, it made them much more bigger.
And you're an artist.
Yeah, it definitely brought out my, past talents and made them bigger, but, it showed me like what I want to do for my life. And I do believe that God, brought this to me. He gave this to me, and now I have to use it to help others. I see people, suffer Lyme disease, and they were like us before the Pope. They're lost and they're scared because they didn't have any guidance. After the Pope, that miracle I was asking for, it wasn't getting up and walking, but it was, the support of, millions. It was like the love around the world. Before the Pope, we were alone and scared, and then after, we saw how not so alone we were.
Dad, because I want to drive this home, and I want people to understand the importance of it. Where are we in terms of medical care, in terms of insurance? What do you need people to know with regard to being able to care for your daughter?
First of all, when it comes to Lyme disease, you can't find the proper care within the mainstream medical insurance-accepted doctors. They follow guidelines that are extremely outdated and not up to date. Unfortunately, Lyme specialists do not accept insurance because insurance companies frown upon these doctors. Lyme is very expensive to treat. Julia is very sick. Her case is rare. Most people get better on the proper treatment. I would say the numbers are pretty high as well. 80% of people on treatment get better. Lyme disease is complicated, and if you don't get the proper care, you're only going to get sicker. Julia went for a long time undiagnosed, and she didn't receive the proper care, which led her to lose her legs. What she lost was her central nervous system.
Is this permanent?
We don't have a prognosis.
Okay.
We don't know. Till this day, I have a really hard time finding Julia a neurologist or a cardiologist. These doctors that are within the mainstream medical spectrum don't believe in Lyme, even though there is a lot of peer-reviewed scientific evidence and research proving all we know about Lyme. It's not adhered to by insurance companies.
Julie, you've had to grow up really fast in a short amount of time. Give me a year. Where do you see yourself a year from now?
A year from now? Well, like I said, I've seen, the unfairness that people have to go through that have Lyme disease. Insurance companies don't cover their medicine, and I was lucky because I had the support of my community that paid for my treatments. There's people out there that don't have doctors because they can't afford it. There are people that are alone and don't know what to do. They don't have guidance.
Makes us feel guilty.
Yes.
There is a survivor's guilt, a remorse that I could imagine that you go through.
Well, now what I see my future being is helping those people, starting a foundation, to help people who have Lyme disease, put them on the right track, give them funds to help them get medicine and get them the right doctor, make sure that they're on the right path to recovery. I've seen so much suffering that shouldn't be.
We talk about finding our 99s on this show. In the time we have left in this particular segment, what are your greatest 99s, your greatest reasons to be grateful and appreciative?
My family, it gave me stronger faith in God, definitely. It brought me closer, to my friends, my siblings. Strangers have become family. It showed me that, there's so much love in the world. It gave me bigger goals. It made my future brighter. There's so much. It gave me a new passion in life.
Enrico, what are your 99s?
Again, our perspective has changed. I'm so grateful for Julia. That wheelchair for me, it's invisible. You know, she's very strong, she's special, and I know she's going to do great things. You know, I'm grateful for the things that most of us don't ever think about. You know, it's like walking. You know, we take that for granted. So you see the world in a different light, and you start to appreciate the things that you really never even realized were there before. My 99s are, you know, my children. I see the love of God in so many people, and it brings us to tears all the time, because people are always willing to do more for you, and it's extraordinary. And again, it brings me to feel guilty as well, because I know so many suffer without this.
I won't tell you not to feel guilty, only because I'm not you, but I can say from the perspective of myself and from the people watching, it is what God intends. You know, it's the journey that you're on.
Yeah.
So hopefully one day you'll just be able to accept it and own it as just what you deserve, the love and the blessing. We're going to leave it there just for this segment. Take a quick break, pay some bills, come back, and we'll have some final words from Julia and her dad. Please stay with us. Welcome back to the other 99 times Count Your Blessings. We have final words here from Julia and her dad, Enrico. Julia, for the last two segments, what I appreciate the most is you don't speak like a victim. I appreciate your strength, and I admire the inspiration that you've become to so many people. What are your final words to anybody who's listening, who's going through something, who doesn't feel like they can find the strength?
There are going to be times where you can't find any hope, and you feel like, you know, there's nothing left for you. You feel alone and you feel scared. But if you look hard enough, and you find faith in God, and you find faith in the people you love, the people that support you, you're going to be able to move on. Focus on, you know, the future. Focus on, you know, how bright you can make it. You know, use all of that anger and all of that, you know, sadness that you find and turn it into passion for things that you want to change. Be aware of, you know, that, you know, you're not the only one. There are so many other people that, you know, feel this way, so don't feel alone.
Beautifully said. Dad, final words really quickly.
I would agree with Julia. I think the most important thing is to have a strong faith in God, just to trust in Him and believe. And if you do, things will, you know, things will be clearer. You will see your way, you know. So.
Thank you both for, this is a gift for me. I really appreciate that you were just generous to share this story with me, with our viewers, and I really, really believe that you've touched some hearts. I want to have you back, you know, because I definitely want to follow your journey, and I want to give you a copy of the book that started it all. It's The Other 99 Times, TYMES, Train Your Mind to Enjoy Serenity. It's a signed copy by the author, Carlos Wallace, who's the creative consultant of this show. When you read it, just know you're loved, you're encouraged, you're motivated, you have new family here, so you can reach out to us anytime as well. So thank you so much.
God bless you.
God bless you both. Thank you for tuning in once again to another episode of The Other 99 Times. I'll be looking for you next week where we have another great guest, another great story of inspiration and motivation. And remember, like I always say, you are much stronger than you think you are. So always find that strength and work with it. Use your bad, turn it into good. You're a survivor.